I shouldn't have started homeschooling. I feel like this was a huge mistake. What do I do now? This is a common comment, DM, email that I get. And I felt very inspired to make this video because, first of all, I hear you and I've been there. I wanted to share my story, my testimony of how my first year homeschooling, how I felt. In doing so, I hope to help you out in your journey because I know that homeschooling can be hard. And hard doesn't have to mean bad all the time. Before we do start the video, I did want to introduce myself just in case this is your first time here.
My name is Gina, and I'm a Canadian homeschool mom of 3 kids. We currently live off-grid in the middle of nowhere in the Canadian wilderness. I love sharing all things homeschooling, our love for Christ, and off-grid adventures. I'm a strong believer that the greatest legacy we can leave our children are happy memories. So come along and join us on this amazing journey.
I guess I just want to start with my story and how I felt my first year homeschooling. I went into my first year homeschooling very much afraid, scared for my kids' future. I was scared that it wasn't something that I could do mentally here, but also kind of like I'm not a teacher. And although I've watched a lot of motivational videos, there is, a difference between actually doing it and watching someone do it. So putting it into practice, I was worried because I wasn't sure if I was up to it. I was afraid of failure as well. Kind of like, man, if I do this and I end up, putting my kids back in school, I'm going to be a failure. And those are just kind of thoughts that I felt and what made me scared to start homeschooling. Obviously, I did start homeschooling and I had no friends that homeschooling. I had acquaintances that homeschooled, but I tried reaching out to them, but no one really helped me. It was kind of like, oh, awesome, you're doing it. You're going to do amazing. When I came to acquaintances to kind of tell them, like, and almost like ask for help in a way, or maybe encouragement, I didn't have that. I found that on YouTube. I didn't have Instagram at the time, so I didn't find it on Instagram, but I did find it on YouTube, and that really did help me. It's different when you put something into practice and you actually do it compared to like watching other people doing it. So I feel like we romanticize this process a lot, the homeschooling process, because you have a vision in your head on how you want your homeschool to look like. And then when you do it, you're kind of like, oh man, this is not how I pictured my homeschool to look like. And it could be discouraging when that happens because of the romanticizing the process, because you watch a 15 to 20 minute video and you're like, oh, okay, this looks fine, but you don't spend 24 hours with someone. And there is a difference when you do have actually someone like a friend, like a physical friend that you can go to. I didn't have that, so I did feel very lonely. I felt very going into this 50-50 and saying that I'm going to give it my best shot, but if I can't do it, I can't do it. Like, I'm not going to put this expectation in my head that I would have to do this for the rest of my life, because I don't even know what homeschooling really is. And someone that's never homeschooled will never know what it is. So, people can give you their opinions, family, friends, acquaintances, people online. They can give you your opinion and never have done it. And that's all it is. It's their opinion, because there's a difference. It's almost like a person that doesn't have kids. They can give you advice, but they don't really know what it is. Like, they could be like, oh, when I have kids, I'm not going to do that. But then they end up doing it anyways when they have kids, because they find out that, you know what, actually, I didn't know what parenthood is, and you'll never know what it is until you experience it. And everyone will have a different journey as well. So it's completely like having kids. Like, a family can go through something, and then you can go through something completely different. That's how it is when having kids. It's always going to look different. Every kid is so different and unique. And the same thing is with homeschooling. You can try to imitate something in a homeschool, and it might not work out. Maybe it will work out, but there's a chance that it might not work either. So it could be discouraging sometimes when you have this vision in your head. So I definitely romanticized it a bit, but also I knew this was probably going to be the most difficult thing that I've ever done in my life. And sometimes we think of something difficult, of it being bad, like almost like something shouldn't be difficult, but think of it as like a job. If you have a job, you started a new job, you don't know. You don't know what it's like. You've never done that job before. You're learning. You're figuring things out that work best for you. And a person might train you and tell you, oh, you know what, do it this way. But once you get the job, you do it something much better or a much better way that helps you do the job better. So it's almost like homeschooling as well. Like, just because someone does something a certain way doesn't mean you're going to do it a certain way as well. And sometimes it might take you a year or two to even get, good at your position, or feel like an expert in your position, or feel at least confident in your job. So it's the same thing with homeschooling. And I know I'm doing a lot of like comparison, but just so you can understand where I'm coming from and maybe relate to that. So I didn't, I definitely struggled. I struggled a lot my first year homeschooling. We were also going through a lot of change. When I first started homeschooling, that's when I moved to our country home, and we were far away from family. We were doing renovations, our new home. So we had a lot of different things going on in our family. And then add homeschooling, which was probably the scariest thing for me, because in the back of my head, I was always thinking like, this is my kid's education. And I know he's so young. He was only in senior kindergarten. So he went to private school during junior kindergarten, that we call it here because we're in Canada. And then for senior kindergarten, obviously I started homeschooling him. And I would talk to like other moms, people that I would meet, and I would share with them my concern and kind of like, I'm a little scared. And they would brush me off and being like, oh, why are you scared? The kid's only 5 years old. Like, what are you scared of? Let him play, let him do that. And the thing is I understand where they're coming from. I do, but I didn't need to hear that at that moment. I needed someone to validate my feelings and be like, it's okay if you feel that way. I felt that way too. And I know they said that I worry too, but don't worry about it. It's just so silly worrying. But I'm worrying. So what I needed someone is to tell me that, you know what, I felt that way too. Your feelings are valid. Why don't you spend a day with me so you can kind of see what homeschooling is? Share with me an experience, your testimony, and tell me how you struggled with this, this, and this. That encourages people. And I think sometimes we're just so busy with life that we kind of brush it off and being like, no, why are you feeling that way? Your child's going to be playing. Don't worry about that. Like, why are you worrying? And sometimes that's not what a mom needs to hear, regardless if it's their first year homeschooling or if they've been homeschooling for a long time. They have something that happened in their life that changes the dynamic in their life. And this could be a new baby. It could be maybe a death in the family. It could be, things that are going on with your health. It could be anything. And that definitely changes how your homeschool is going to look. So you're kind of like, oh man, like routines are changing. Like this is so different. And it is. It's very, very different. I never had that friend that could help me, and I felt very lonely. I did have God, because I am a Christian. So God has had my back since the beginning. I cried a lot during my first year of homeschooling. I would kneel and I would ask God, I'm like, God, I don't think I can do this. I'm feeling like you're calling me to do this, but I don't think I can do this. I'm really struggling. I need you to show me that I am the best teacher for my kids. I need you to take this feeling of that I'm failing my kids by doing this, and I need you to help me. Please be there for me. And he was. He was very much there, and I could feel it. And I didn't feel called to do it from the beginning, but once I started homeschooling, I felt called to do it. And I felt like one of my reasons why was because I was the best teacher for my child. I didn't believe in that though. Because sometimes you'll write down your whys. Someone will tell you, write down all your whys. And one of your whys might be something like, I'm the best teacher for my child. And you want to believe that. But when you're in this process, you don't believe it yet because you haven't experienced it. But once you experience it, your why becomes even more significant. And you're like, yeah, I'm the best teacher for my child. I see it. And when you have your whys, there are going to be some whys that you want to believe in, but you don't fully believe in it yet because you haven't experienced it yet. And that's okay. So just so you know that it's okay to sometimes have doubts, and it's okay that you feel that way because you've never experienced this before. So it's hard. So I just wanted to let you know that because I felt that as well. And as time went on, I could see Nicholas and I could see what he needed from me. I could see what I could offer to him beyond the school system. And there was a point in my homeschool journey that I was kind of like this, and so many emotions that I said, you know what, let me look at private school. Let me look and see if we could afford this, and maybe do like a dual enrollment. There is that option in some private schools, and I found one, but it was very, very expensive still, and it wasn't in our budget. And I felt very called still to do this. I even talked to my husband about it. We kind of got in an argument about it, and I don't remember that at all. I don't remember it, but my husband, he said that he remembers we got in an argument over it because I wanted to put the kids in the private school and we couldn't afford it. It wasn't even because he didn't want to put the kids in the private schools, because we couldn't afford it at the time. And I didn't want to put my kids in the public school system. So that was kind of hard for me as well, like that fight, that tug, between I am the best teacher for my child, but also that like I don't think I could do this, because I was still deschooling, and deschooling is very much part of this whole process. You have to understand that I come from the public school system. I come from where you go to school from 8 to 3:30 p.m. when you're in elementary school. And I come with this thing of doing homework that you need to spend so much time on bookwork. I come from that. Like, that's all I've ever known. I'm stepping into this whole new world. Honestly, I have the public school system in my veins. I gotta flush it out of my system. And you'll only know that if you've gone to the public school system, and if you've been part of the public school system. It's impossible for you to explain homeschooling, or you watch a video and you understand what homeschooling is. You won't understand it. You won't. And if you're watching this right now and you're feeling kind of like discouraged, I want to encourage you to be like, that is normal for those feelings to happen, because you're still deschooling. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn about your child and what they need as well from you. So I wanted to be encouraging in that way, to let you know that your feelings are valid. Now, I think I started getting a little bit more comfortable with this whole homeschooling experience once I reached that 1 year mark. I'm like, man, I'm awesome. Like, I feel I could do this. I feel like it's not going to be that bad. But then I hit a roadblock and COVID happened. So my first year was without COVID. And when COVID happened, we had a little roadblock where our jobs were being affected. Well, my husband's job was being affected. A lot of unknowns in the world. And we made the decision that I had to go back to work. I didn't know that you could work in homeschool, because in my head, I was kind of like, how could I do it all? But since my kids were so young, and my husband and I, we were a team, we made it work. So another transitional change. I was getting the hang of homeschooling. I was doing all of it. I was doing good. And roadblock, like another routine change happened. But I was like, you know what? We're good. We're going to do this. So I worked and I homeschooled. My husband and I, we worked with our schedules. He sometimes had work that he had to do, but because of COVID, there was much more restrictions in place for him. So he could help me out, and we made it work with what we been dealt with during that time. And after that, I also got pregnant. So my pregnancy, it was hard. Pregnancy and homeschooling, pregnancy with littles, that's really hard. So if you're struggling, don't worry, girl. We on the struggle bus together, because I was there. I feel like it's getting better now. The kids are getting a little bit older, more independent, like my youngest ones, but it's hard. Let me tell you something. It is hard. And if someone tells you that it's easy, maybe it's for them, but if it's hard for you, we can relate to each other. It is hard, but it's not impossible. And you have to come up with this. You have to play around with your routine and see what works best for you. So it is hard, homeschooling with littles, but you have to just see what kind of routine that you need. And once I got pregnant, Lily, my little daughter, came, and we were so happy. I think Nicholas was going into the first grade. And I ordered all my curriculum. I was ready to go, but I also was not ready to go. I knew that Lily was born in September, in my head, I was like, I have to start in September because this is our second year homeschooling. I wanted to, start off strong, but I also wanted to be realistic. And I knew that my daughter being born in September, I would need a month or two off to kind of, and when I say off, like curriculum-wise, obviously I did other things with my kids, but like I knew that my schedule would not be so structured. So what did I do? I took that time off. We snuggled, we cuddled, we had a lot of fun outside. We enjoyed that little baby phase. We smiled, we did tummy time together. We sometimes did a little bit of schoolwork here and there just to kind of, change things up a bit. My baby on one side, Michael doing his puzzles on the other, Nicholas doing his schoolwork, still doing fun activities, but taking it easy. Because guess what? I was waking up a lot of times at night. I was still recovering. My body was recovering. Was my kids behind on something? No. We started back up in November. We started doing our curriculum. All was well. Like, I didn't have to follow anyone's timeline because it was fine. It's the flexibility of homeschooling. And if we stress so much about these things, that's when a problem is going to happen. But it's normal. We stress, we worry about our kids. I mean, that's part of being a mom, I feel, is that we worry all the time. And I know I'm a worrier, guys. I worry about everything. So if you're a worrier too, we're in this together. So, ew, I sound like Justin Trudeau. We're in this together. Anyways, it was a time where I was worried, but also at the same time, like I embraced it. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna trust my instincts, my homeschool mom instincts, that everything was gonna be okay. And I did that. I did not push ourselves, and we had an amazing second year of homeschooling. So years went on. I'm going into our 5th year homeschooling now, and each year it gets better. Each year it gets better. My kids, Nicholas, I taught him how to read. I didn't even use a curriculum back then. I love the curriculum that we are using, the things, the resources that we use. I love them all. And I'm consistent with it. I change our routines all the time because everything is changing. We just moved to the middle of nowhere in the Canadian wilderness, and that was a huge kind of shock for us. And for my kids too, like it was good. They're loving it. But it's different. It's a different routine. It's a different lifestyle that we have here. So my routine has changed since, the beginning, the 2nd year, the 3rd year, the 4th year. This 5th year, it's completely different. And I'm going to be sharing that in a future video of how our homeschool is looking now that we started back up. It's very, very different. Something different that I've never done before, but I knew I needed to do in the season of life that I'm in. Remember, different seasons of life call for different needs. So don't feel like because you see this homeschool mom and she's doing every single thing that you feel like you should be doing. That's not you. That's not your journey. That's not maybe she has older kids. It's gonna be a lot different from you that maybe has younger kids, or vice versa. Just listen to your needs and your kids' needs. If you feel like you can pick up the pace, pick up the pace. Because I'm a Christian, guys, I'm gonna have to say this, but it's very easy for the enemy to use these guilt against you. The fear of missing out, the fear that your child maybe will be missing something that they could get in the public school system, because there are going to be certain things that they cannot do. I know that sometimes the negative might outshine the positive. For example, on YouTube, I could have a ton of positive comments and then you get 1 or 2 like negative comments and it could bring you down to the core and you're like, oh, this is like really hard. In life, it's like that. It's very easy to look at the negative things and the positive things, like kind of the negative outshines the positive. This is kind of what I would recommend you do. Start your day with God. Pray with your kids. Talk to them about your whys. Remind them of your whys. Have somewhere where you can store your memories. You're going to pick up your phone when it's something really cute and really nice and something that you want to remember. Keep a little folder on your phone so you can go through that and remember, wow, we had really good days. Because it's really nice to look back at those days when you're having a really bad day, and it kind of uplifts the spirits. So you can look back and be like, wow, we had some really amazing moments. And maybe this mistake that I felt like I made is probably going to be the best mistake that I ever made in my life. And I hope that's the case for you. I don't want to guilt trip you and, you know, tell you that you shouldn't put your kids in this and this. I mean, at the end of the day, that's up to you. So I wanted to be an encouragement for you and just share my story, because we all have a story to tell. And if you're a homeschool mom and you have something encouraging to say, please leave it down in the comments so we can encourage each other. There is just so much moms that have encouraged me in my journey since I started my homeschool channel. So before we end, I wanted to share a little highlight of the beginning of our journey up until now, just to encourage you. Remember, God, He is there for you. If you're feeling alone, He is there for you. If you're feeling like you can't do this, you can do all things through Christ who gives you strength. A hard moment doesn't have to define your whole day. Start over, apologize, forgive each other. You have got this. God is by your side. Having said that, guys, thank you so much for watching. And of course, I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.
It's been a struggle. I know you've had some pain. I know you're feeling tired, held down by all the weight. Yeah, I know you're feeling lonely. Your smile ain't the same. Not sure where to go from here. Feel like you've lost your way. Don't give up, no, don't give in. Never lose hope, don't let go of the promise. It ain't done yet, He's got a plan. Watch Him rain down, got a miracle. I can see the strength inside you. Child, you're putting up a fight. Oh, you're stronger than you think you are. Yeah, you're gonna be alright. You're accepted, loved, and valued. Beautiful, you're shining bright.